Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Progress America Unfiltered. I'm Rhett Martino here with Jocelyn McCurdy Keats, and joined today by the one, the only, Richard Stevens, who is the Barbra Seville. Barbra, Richard, thank you so much for joining us today. So you have been a drag performer for the past 25 years and have definitely lightened the hearts and the minds of so many people across the country. And of course, you are based in Arizona. And there is a friend of yours that somewhat got national attention recently, or I should say an ex-friend of yours. Um, the Kari Lake of it all. But we don't want to focus only on Kari Lake, but I want to hear about what the hell that was all about, and also just hear about what causes that you're supporting now in politics and all of these important things. But do you want to start by talking a little bit about yourself, about Kari Lake, if you want to go there, and all this other stuff that you got going on?
Sure. Well, Richard Stevens, Phoenix, Arizona, originally from Ohio, but grew up out here in Phoenix. I've been a professional female impersonator, or like I put on my resume, gender illusion technician, um, for 25 years, all over the country, all over the state, every almost every imaginable capacity as a queen. As an MC, a headliner. I've worked in television and on radio, and just really managed to make a living and a name for myself doing what I love. And along the way, I try to support the causes that are important to me and use the platform that's afforded me to highlight some of the good that's in our community, or to uncover some of the dastardly. Um, but it's been a good run. I can't complain about it at all.
That's really awesome. And Jocelyn,
Well, yeah. So, Richard, could you tell people? I know this is so basic, but it's important. Could you explain to people who are like watching this bigotry against drag performances as an art form? Could you explain to people how important this is and like the space and the community this has created for so many people?
You know, drag, I don't understand why it has become such a hot button and such a touchstone right now, because it's existed forever. It's existed in fairly innocuous ways for as long as I can remember, and I'm older than both of you. Um, but drag, excuse me, drag is important because I love the phrase that Rhett used, which was, lifting spirits, and just the art that we put out there, the creation that we put out there, the energy that we put out there takes people away from the cruel realities of the world sometimes. Um, it's a form of expression. It's a form of gender expression. Some people have used it through the years as a way to discover their true identity. There are so many trans people I know who, um, through drag, were able to connect with who they really were, or who they really are, or who they were meant to be. Other people use drag as a way to just express themselves and to get um, their theatrical bug out of them or whatever. For me, drag has always been. And you have to excuse my voice. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I sounded like this. Um, Drag has always been sort of a tribute to my mom, a tribute to like the badass women that I idolized growing up. And it's just it's just fun. It's fun. And another thing, I wrote a piece about this not too long ago. The commerce of drag, the big business of drag. I think it would blow a lot of people's minds.
Wait, hold on. Say more about that.
Um, just drag has become a business, and it has become a global phenomenon through RuPaul's Drag Race. And like, I'll just look at what I do, okay? I do drag anywhere from 4 to 6 times a week. So that's typically two or three businesses that are relying on the show that I do and the people that I bring in to generate revenue for their business. Um, then there's also the fact that I have to have costumes, hair, um, wigs and makeup. So I'm paying someone to make these costumes. I'm paying someone to create these wigs. I'm paying someone to create this jewelry. It just keeps going and going. And that's just with me as a local queen. When you look at someone who's achieved maybe global success like Bianca Del Rio from RuPaul's Drag Race or Trixie Mattel, they're performing at the Orpheum Theater, they're performing at these arenas. So now there are people who have a shift working that drag show. There's people who park valet cars. There's restaurants that get business because people are coming to that venue to see a show. There's people who work the concession stand. There's people who sell the merch. I mean, it just there's the riggers and the lighters and the gaffers in the theater. It's business.
Well, so what has it been like to watch this become so central for, like, you know, Proud Boys protesting drag brunches and drag story hours? Like, does that fill you with fear or anger, or is it more just like you're saying, like a little bit bafflement? Like, we're just here to have a good time and perform.
Well, it's it's just familiar is what it is to me. It's very familiar because we've seen this sort of thing play out before, um, where everyone's outraged about something or about someone. The migrant caravan was the punching bag. What, 4 years ago, 3 years ago? I don't
Mhm.
know. And it's all anybody could talk about for a while, and everybody was mad about that, and that went away. And so part of me feels like this is a temporary distraction. This is something for people to build their clout on. To have you? I'm sure you have. Are you familiar with the phrase "angertainment"?
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Um,
I feel like you
it's
just described the current media cycle, though, in one word. So,
Yeah, and it's just truly, the Tucker Carlsons of the world, and now, the Kari Lakes of the world, who profit by getting you worked up and pissed off about something, and now, they're generating ratings for their television shows, or they're generating donations to their political action committee, that they're going to keep the money. um, and it just goes on and on. So to me, I see this as the flavor of the day. Um, here in Arizona, the bills that they've introduced, Governor Hobbs has made it clear that she won't sign anything. So what I've noticed is these bills that they've introduced, they keep getting modified to make them more and more and more extreme, because they know they're not going to pass. But what they can do now is send out fundraising letters saying, "Hey, look what I'm doing, and look what I did, and maybe I'll get invited to go talk to Tucker Carlson, or maybe I'll get invited to speak at Turning Point." Um, Maybe I'm just cynical and short-sighted, but that's how I see it.
yeah, well, that's interesting then. So, do you feel like you want people to be mobilizing around, like, protecting the drag community and doing it, or do you feel more like, okay, stop using us as an obfuscation tool? Like, we're just people, we're just performers. Like, we're like, I don't want to be your hot button issue of the day.
Well, I mean, that wasn't our choice. We
Yeah.
didn't. It's not like we said, "Hey, what about us? Make us the your punching bag." But the gay community has done that for so long. The gay community, like they always say, um, that a band is smart when they shut up and sing, or when they just sing the hits. And demonizing the LGBTQ community has been one of the greatest hits for the Republican Party for a long time. It's their free bird. I don't know if you know that reference. It's Leonard Skinner, but
I think that's a really great point. It's also like I see it too as like because drag is like so associated with so much joy and so much like enrichment within the LGBT community. Like it's like a particular flavor of evil for them to go after something that's like about queer joy and like queer love, queer expression. It's like turning this thing that is like about inherent expression and making it into something that it is absolutely not, making it into this like kind of evil amorphous thing when it really at the end of the day has been and always been about queer joy.
It is. It's
I mean,
about, just having a good time. It's about, I love that expression though, queer joy, just like having so much energy or so much passion or so much love for an artist or um, for dance that you just can't contain yourself. And also it's about tapping into the all of the things that have been that society tries to beat out of you. Whether it's as a man, they want you to beat out any femininity because they need you to be this man, man, man. And, so, I'm a man and I identify as a man and I'm comfortable as a man, but I don't like the textbook definition of masculinity or of what a man has to be because there's more to me than just X, Y, or Z. And so the same is true for so many people. It's about coloring outside of the lines. It's about being yourself. It's about giving other people permission to be themselves. That's the thing that I learned the most through all of this is how many people, found strength by watching someone else go through the fire or watching someone else really authentically be themselves.
well, so I don't think we've touched on this. What did happen with Kari Lake? Could you tell people who don't know?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, if you Google it, it's all there. But I met Kari Lake over 20 years ago. Um, she was a local newscaster, and her station was just down the street from the bar that I was working at regularly. And the first couple times that we saw her there, we were like, "Oh my gosh, Carrie's here!" And everybody thought that was really cool. Um, and then finally, like we talked to her, and I got to know her. And then a year later, she asked me to be on the news with her regarding a story. I think they were showing Tu Wong Fu, I think, on as like the movie of the night, and so they tried to do this like um, meet a real life drag queen, and so that was the way in, and then eventually she would ask me to be a part of uh, her stories, whether if they pertain to the LGBT community. I was also very active with HIV and AIDS prevention programming here in Phoenix, and so sometimes if they had a story regarding that, they would ask me to sort of be their talking head or to represent that point of view. Um, like when Chick-fil-A was really going through it with uh, discrimination stuff. They did like a counterpoint thing. So I appeared on the news with her a lot, but I also socialized with her a lot. Through all the different shows that she would come to. Um, Eventually, she hired me to do a bachelorette part. No, not a bachelorette party. A bridal shower for a coworker, and I did that in front of kids, in front of her kids. Thought nothing of it. We were friends on Facebook. We were friends on Instagram. We were friends. We had each other's phone numbers. We called. We had a very good relationship. We were friendly for many, many years. And it became not even remarkable to see her in the audience at this show. And then when I watched her slide to the right. I'd seen it, but I was still pretty patient with it because I don't expect everybody to agree with me, and I don't expect all of us to have the exact same point of view. But through her lurch to the right, it was actually Gay Pride weekend. It was like June 19th, which is my birthday. That's why I remember it. Her campaign put out a tweet that said drag queens. It said that the left took down the flags and put up rainbow flags and took God out of the classroom and put in drag queens. And, so I contacted her. She didn't reply. I messaged her. She didn't reply. And so after that, I just collected the 20 years of photos and text messages, and I just put them all out on social media and said, "Hey, you guys, this person's a liar," and it was true.
That, like, I have to be
Wow.
honest, that blows my mind. I mean, I knew the gist of this, right? But I think it's a really important story to tell, because I think that sometimes we on the left, and I don't even mean the far left, just the general liberals, human rights sort of America, we assume the people we know and socialize and hire a drag queen to do a bridal shower to be trustworthy. And it sounds like what you're saying is no, that's not true. These people are susceptible to the entertainment industry as well.
Yeah. Well, and just the audacity is what got me, Jocelyn. That's what really got me, was her demonizing drag when she invited me to do drag in front of her kids. And I shared all these photos and text messages and things, but I held some of them back because I knew the news cycle. I knew the deny, destroy, denigrate thing that they would try to do. And so after she denied it and raised money on it and called me a liar and a scumbag on various news stations, um, I released the photos of her kids at the party. And at first I was not going to share those pictures because they were kids at the time, and I could just hear people saying, "Don't bring their kids into this." Da 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 da. But her kids are all grown now. They're like all 18 years old probably, um, and they were there. The gist of the argument, the genesis of the problem was keep drag queens away from kids. They're scary, but 15 years ago, that wasn't the case for you. So that was really what I was trying to expose, was the hypocrisy, and really just the the danger of pointing someone out and saying, "This is the problem. This is a bad person." If you really think that, that might be understandable. But if you know that this person isn't a problem and a threat and you do that, it's irresponsible, it's dangerous, and it also shows the kind of person that you are.
Yeah, and I think also just like Richard, something that really stuck with me from this story too is the fact that you and Kari Lake were friends before all of this. Like, this isn't somebody you knew in passing, and then she like kind of unveiled herself to be what we all know her to be, with like just how anti-LGBT she is in this public persona of hers. And this just reminds me of like, my experiences growing up too, just like as like a young gay boy, like as I was coming to terms with my sexuality, like the friendships that I lost along the way because like some people were not okay with that. And I think it's like, we like to be able to say, oh, it's nice to take a step back and realize, you know what, like not every friendship is going to be reciprocated. Not everybody's going to be friendly to like the true identity. But I think the reality of this is like, it is still a trauma, and it's still something that the LGBT community deals with almost on a perpetual basis.
I agree.
And so I just think that this story really illuminates also your strength too. Like, it's like drag is not something that has to be pushed back into the shadows. Like, we as queer people have a lot of power in coming forward with that. And I think it's
How,
just really incredible that you did that in this story.
how old are you, Rhett?
I'm 22.
22. Um, you mentioned like your growing up process and everything. One of the reasons that I spoke out, one of the reasons that I continue to speak out, one of the reasons that I went to the state legislature to talk about these drag regulation bills and these drag bans is exactly what you said, which is you grow up and you're finding yourself, and it's hard to exist in this world, period. It's hard for everybody, but I do think it's especially hard for queer people. And when I was 16, 17, or even 22, there wasn't a lot of pro-gay messaging in the media. There wasn't a it gets better. There wasn't a no one ever believed that gay marriage was a possibility. Nobody ever believed that there could be a gay cabinet member, in the United States administration. Everything was just gloom, doom. It was sadness. It was trauma. It was fear. It was HIV. It was homophobia. That's the only time you ever heard anything. And so this really took me back to that. And I just thought, wow, how would you feel, as a 16-year-old boy or a 14-year-old boy or a 13-year-old boy or an 8-year-old girl who is coming into themselves and knowing that they're different, and all you hear about you and your community is how dangerous you are and how sick you are and how perverted you are and how menacing you are. So that's why I spoke out, was really to counter that argument. And I'm lucky. I realize that I have the luxury to take on that fight because I'm experienced. I have an education. I'm 6 foot tall, almost 200 pounds. So I'm not afraid of a lot of people. So I wanted to use that privilege that is mine, to protect someone who maybe doesn't enjoy those same qualities or advantages.
Well, and to illuminate that it's a bad faith argument. Like, I think that's the most stunning thing about this whole situation. It's like you said, if you actually believe that because you were raised in some weird right-wing cult, I don't know. I have a small amount of empathy for what that would be like. But these people are not that. These are cold-blooded operators who know they will make an outrageous profit, accrue outrageous political power by turning their enormous privilege cannons on people they know to be good. And that's what makes it so chilling, I think, and scary about the fate of our democracy for everybody. And that's the other thing, right? Like, these people they don't care. They're just doing this. So, we have to have solidarity together, because it's like you said, last week it was the migrant caravan, whatever that ever meant, right? And it's just they don't really care. They don't mean anything they say.
But if it's going to get you to watch their TV show, if it's going to get you to send $5, if it's going to get you to come to their speech that they get paid $100,000 for, I swear, Carrie and I never talked about this, but I've never liked Donald Trump. I've always known what a piece of shit he was, always. But I've watched him because you can't, he's been a part of our culture for so long. But I have this scenario in my mind that, because this is when Kerry sort of lurched to the right, was in the early months of Donald Trump's administration, he wasn't doing a lot of interviews. I don't know if you remember that, but they were really hiding him from the press. Those various press secretaries were handling everything, and if it wasn't a controlled environment, Donald Trump wouldn't participate. And he did, one of the first interviews that he did was with Kari Lake, and it immediately heightened her exposure. And even though I don't like Donald Trump, I do like Kari Lake. So I was happy for Kari. I was like, good for you, bitch. I'm so happy for you. And I think I even sent her that message. And she's like, oh my gosh, thank you. I'm just so frustrated because I'm really seeing this Trump derangement syndrome. People are really mad at me for interviewing him. And I believe she said her daughter was even upset. Her daughter was embarrassed. And I was like, you know what? One of these days she's going to look back and be like, wow, Mom, you interviewed the president in the Oval Office. That's what every journalist in the world wants. So I was happy for her despite it being him. And I watched her social media people just sending her hateful messages and telling her that she shouldn't have been there. And I think that's where she started her. Maybe there's some truth to this, but I also believe that when the cameras were down, when everybody left and it was just her and Donald Trump, I'm sure he said to her, "Look at you. You're beautiful. You're smart. Everybody in Arizona knows you. What are you doing wasting your time spinning your wheels in a lousy Fox affiliate? Look at me. Look what I did. I took my name recognition. I took my bully pulpit and I got myself to the highest office in the land." And I'm sure that he just introduced that thought to her. I'm just,
You
I
know,
just,
I need this to be like, I need there to be like a novel about you guys' friendship now, because there's like a lot in there, like an allegories about fascism, about identity, about how like, and honestly, the entertainment industry radicalizes people because it is so shame based and so extreme. Not at all standing up for Kari Lake, but no, I mean, I get what you're saying, right? If people are like, "Oh, you're terrible, you're terrible, you're terrible," and then these like little fascists are like, "We could make you a real big fascist. We love you," you know? I
exactly,
mean, that's
exactly.
human psychology. I don't like it, but it's how people work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's 100. Don't you love entertainment? Don't you wonder how you never knew that
That's
word before
my
now?
new favorite word.
um, but, and my argument is supported by these text messages and emails that have been leaked with the Dominion Fox News lawsuit, where Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham and their producers are exchanging messages saying, "Oh, this guy's full of shit. What is he doing on here?" Or we know this election wasn't stolen, but they still perpetuated it to draw those eyes to their channel. And that's it. It just again, it just proves to. I mean, it doesn't prove to me, but it supports my theory about Carrie.
Yeah, I'm just so shocked with how I just find it to be so remarkable how quick this shift for her happened. Like that interview from
Sorry.
2017 to now. I mean, it's just really like what a rapid pace for her to go from what she was messaging you about her thoughts on like the Trump dynamic to what she is now. I mean, this is a rapid shift, and I think that is in many ways a warning sign for so many things. And like for like the messaging that's out there for how radicalizing it can be, for sure. With this right wing extremism, it's definitely jarring.
But
And
you know
I
what, Brett?
oh,
You know what? Like we already saw that. I mean, because you're right. The pace is sort of alarming. But if you think back, we let Donald Trump publicly get away with all that. Like Donald Trump went from everybody knowing what a piece of shit he is, and everybody knowing what a womanizer and a serial cheater and a fraud that he is. But once he claimed to find the light or find God or whatever, all of that was immediately no one cares. Oh well, that was just 4 years ago. He's not like that anymore. You know, so it's what we're seeing with Carrie and other candidates like her across the country.
it's a really great point.
Well, so Richard, what would you like? What do you want people to do? Allies and just citizens. Like, this is a very intense experience you've been through. And I think it gives you like a unique, not even just insight, but a unique clarity about the situation we're in. Like, what would you want everyone in America to do right now to stop this?
I just wish people would register to vote because it's just it's alarming that our system is so fragile that such a small amount of people, meaning our state legislators or our the 435 people that are in Congress, that they can have such a sway on us. It's shocking. So there's that, and then you also take into consideration how few people vote, how few people are lending their voices to the process, and just essentially giving up their voice. And going down to the state Senate and talking to the Judiciary Committee and seeing these, I'm not sure if they're truly unhinged or if they're just opportunists, but seeing these perhaps unhinged people um, with so much power, it was shocking. It was shocking. And they're only there because a few people sent them to Congress, a few people sent them to the Senate. Um, there were three of them that were particularly nasty. So I went to their social medias. I was like, how did these people get here? Who are these people? And I couldn't believe, like, one of them only has like 7,000 followers on Instagram, or not Instagram, on Twitter. And I was like, that tells you something about her. That tells you that she doesn't have the support of Arizona when you only have, I mean, I think I had more followers. I don't know. And I don't have a lot. And I was like, wow, this is someone who could probably easily be put out of office if people would mobilize, educate themselves, and get themselves to the polls.
Well, I love that you say that because I think, we need to really understand that people with power are not necessarily people agree with. They are not necessarily people with popular support. They're just people with power. But if we make it easy for them to get those levers of power, they're very dangerous, whether they're intelligent and competent or not. I mean, I'm like currently binging the history of fascism in Europe because I think it applies here. And one of the most startling and upsetting things to realize about Germany and the rise of fascism there is that the Nazis were not a popular political party. But then once they had power, everyone's like, well, they're going to kill me if I don't go along with it. So, and that's what could happen here. Like America is not filled with right-wing extremists, but America does have enough right-wing extremists to be dangerous and scary. And that is why we have to take it seriously. So I think you're right, Richard. Like, yeah.
In the last couple of weeks of the midterms, um, European press converged on Phoenix. I would say, I did at least 5 international interviews with everything from like the British version of Associated Press to a French version of 60 Minutes, somebody from Switzerland, like just all these people were fascinated and concerned about the election here because they were using that as a historical precedent. And they were like, what happens in Arizona will happen across the country. And what happens across the country will happen across the globe. Um, and they said that's why everyone's riveted by this Kari Lake, Katie Hobbs election. And so I was so proud that Arizona kicked her to the curb, you know. Um, I was so proud because I was really worried. And we've seen, and this gives me more faith. We've seen in the post election data and through the recounts and examining all these ballots that a lot of Republicans went through and checked the boxes for all these extremists or all these Republicans, but when they got to her, they said, "I can't do it." You know, like she was too much even for them.
Wow. And Richard, I also, through this conversation, was wondering, do you see a political future for yourself in elected office? Like, is that something that you think you would ever want to pursue? Because just hearing you speak, I just think what a great presence you would be in the national political stage or even statewide in Arizona.
I don't. I don't. And this is going to be a little depressing, but I'm just going to tell you. You know, like I said, growing up with, you know, so few LGBT role models, growing up with so few aspirations, you know, I did a lot of really stupid shit growing up, you know, and I thought that I would either, I thought I'd either be dead by 30, I thought I'd be in jail. Like, I just, um, I didn't have a lot of hope for myself. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Um, because again, all you ever saw was somebody getting kicked out of their house for being gay, somebody beat up for being gay, somebody fired for being gay, somebody kicked out of their town for having AIDS, people dying of AIDS, people getting bashed, and looking back at it, I know that I made poor choices. I mean, nothing crazy, don't get me wrong, um, but I made poor choices because I didn't think that maybe I deserved to have this perfect education or this, that, or the other. And that's why I want to inspire other people, and that's why I want to make sure that 13-year-old in Peoria grows up with a better self-esteem, because that's somebody who could be the president, that's somebody who could be a mayor, that's someone who could be in the cabinet. You know what I mean?
Okay, but I'm not trying to fight with you. But that's exactly why I have to agree with Rhett. We need more people with non-traditional backgrounds, non-traditional whatever. Because I'm sorry, I don't want a country run by privileged Caucasian millionaire lawyers. Like we have, that's like most people in Congress,
True.
straight, male, rich lawyer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and I mean, maybe there's truth to that, because you know the what's the word I want to use? Like, what is it when you compare something? I don't know, whatever it is, but the it has changed so much, and the I can't think of the word, but 10 years or 20 years ago, someone like Donald Trump would have no chance getting the Republican nomination. Even five
yeah,
years ago, someone like George Santos would have never been elected to Congress. And 2 years ago, a revelation like what we've come to learn about George Santos would be disqualifying. And now, is it not only not disqualifying, they're raising money for his reelection. The Republican Party, because, and I say this all the time about Democrats and liberals and progressives, is we are so worried about being morally right and um, doing the right thing and taking the high ground, and these other people aren't. They just aren't. They will get power through any means. They will protect power through any means. They will cheat and then accuse you of cheating. It's if you didn't see it, if this was a movie, you wouldn't believe it. That's what I keep comparing it to. Is it's just so outrageous.
I think that's a really great point. Um, and Richard, just thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And I just have really enjoyed getting to know you more. And I just can see us, yeah, I want to be friends with you. Let's be friends. Let's keep in touch, all that good stuff. We'll be sure to link all of your social medias in the description of this video for sure. But I think before we wrap up, is there anything, Jocelyn, you wanted to ask Richard, or Richard, you wanted to say?
no, I'm just so grateful for you and the work you're doing. It took tremendous everything, all the good things, courage, perseverance. I think a lot of us in that situation would have been like, you know what, I don't need this drama in my life. But no, you did a brave and amazing thing. So thank you.
It means a lot. I really appreciate it. It's not how I looked at it at the time. Um, I just really kind of thought it would be a one-day news thing. I thought maybe our local arts paper would pick it up. But a lot of people say that it had something to do with that tiny percentage that she lost by. And if we can take credit for that, for being a part of that, I'll take it. Um, the one thing that the the one thing that I would like, I don't know if leave you with, if that's the right phrase, but the one thing that I want to say is that no matter what happens with these drag bills across the country, no matter if they all pass and then are overturned, so that's the thing. That's what I think is going to happen. Is these are going to pass and they're going to be ruled unconstitutional ultimately. But the damage is already done. The damage is done. Republicans and extremists are so good at branding. They're so good at labeling. They're so good at identifying And now people who weren't thinking about drag 5 years ago, they're thinking about drag. And when they think about it, they think about grooming. They think about sexual abuse. They think about attacking minors. And it's just not the case. Drag is about joy. Drag is about celebration. Drag is about irreverence. Drag is about taking down the patriarchy. Drag is about so many things. And liberals and Democrats, progressives could learn a lot from Republicans' ability to brand and identify something, and that I think that's something that we need to take a look at and get ahead of the message, get ahead of the curve, and have a counter argument ready to go on so many of these things.
Yeah, for sure. Like just the need for strategy, the need to build power in a way that's not directed towards this extremism that Republicans are pushing as they keep going towards the right. And I think that this story really highlights a lot of really important lessons. And Richard, thank you so much for sharing it with us. And thank you for bringing us so much joy through Barbra and so many people. Definitely planning my trip to Arizona so I can come see you live for sure. Jocelyn, I will meet you there.
Yes, please.
And with that, thank you both so much. And thank you all for watching. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow Barbra on Instagram. Hello, what are you even doing if you're not? Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.